Have you ever looked back at a relationship and asked yourself, did they ever really love me? Or was I just a convenience? If that thought has ever crossed your mind, then this video is for you. Because the truth is, some people don't love you, they use you. They keep you around until they don't need you anymore. And when their purpose is served, they walk away like you never existed. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video, because trust me, the signs I'm about to reveal could change your love life forever. And stay till the end, because the last sign is the most painful one of all. Now let's begin. 1. They only needed you, never loved you. Consider the moment they stepped foot in your life for the first time. Can you recall the degree to which they pursued you? In what ways did they make you feel unique, valued, and indispensable? Surely you were thinking, at last someone who understands me. At last someone who will never harm me. Would you believe me if I said it was never love? Love remains constant. Love endures. Love is constant, never leaving your side during good times or bad. Nevertheless, who are they? They would only seek your assistance in times of necessity. Maybe it was the need for companionship, since they despised being left alone. Possibly it was monetary compensation, special treatment, or moral backing. Perhaps they wanted you to be their therapist, fixer, or healer. But consider this. When you really needed them, what happened? Were they willing to put their lives on hold to support you? Or did they all of a sudden get too exhausted, preoccupied, or remote to care? Keep it real. Just think of all the times you waited impatiently for an answer from your phone, only to get nothing. Have you ever cried yourself to sleep? Because you couldn't understand why the one you loved the most was the one who made you feel so lonely. The reason is straightforward. We didn't value you. It was convenient to have you around. The most difficult reality to face is that, for the simple reason that you yearned for their genuine concern, you rationalized their actions. They're just stressed. They're just going through a lot. They'll be better soon. They weren't though. Why? Because being was never in their plans. The worst aspect is that they were aware of it. Aware of their deceit, they used you. They were aware of your feelings for them. And rather than abandoning you, they clung to you, never quite enough to satisfy you, but just enough to keep you hooked. Yes, it is not love, that is deceit. And here you are, going over every interaction, every time you went against your intuition, and wondering why you didn't realize the reality earlier. However, I must assure you that this is not your fault. If you truly care about another person, you'll see the best in them. The idea is to be kind and give them a chance. You feel compelled to defend them. Unfortunately, some individuals just don't want love. What they truly desire is what you have to offer. And after they understand it, as if you didn't even exist, they go on. I have a question for you. Do you still miss them? Are you still the kind to check your phone in the vain expectation of a missed message? If that's the case, just stop. Reason being, the someone you're holding out for, you were never truly the owner of them. 2. Your pain never mattered. Take a little moment to close your eyes. Remember when your heart broke, when you sobbed yourself to sleep, and when you longed for their embrace, solace, and acceptance at the darkest hour of your relationship. However, did they not? It was as if you were too much for them, they said. This is as if your suffering was a mere formality. They expressed frustration, rolled their eyes, advised you to relax, or said you were overly sensitive. It dawned on you at that moment they were indifferent. Have they ever sat down, taken your hand, and said, "Talk to me, I'm here," while you were hurting? What if I asked you that? Did they shift the conversation's focus? Did they treat your discomfort as though it were just your concern? When someone loves you with all their heart, they feel your every anguish. In times of distress, they do more than simply observe. They intervene, offer comfort, and emphasize that you are not alone. But amongst them, everything was always about you being by yourself. No matter how many times you clarified the problem, it persisted. They might have ignored it, played down its significance, or even turned it against you. You're always complaining. You're so needy. Why do you make everything about you? And suddenly you found yourself doubting your own judgment. Think about how often you've wondered, maybe I am too much. Maybe I do ask for too much. You weren't asking for too much though, I must say. Someone else was the one you should have asked. Simply put, a genuine companion. Their ears perk up as you speak. They are concerned. In addition to being there for you during the good times, they will also be there for you throughout the bad times. To that end, why remained? Because you believed that they would finally comprehend if you loved them more intensely. They would understand how much they meant to you. You believed if you continued to give, forgive, and prove your value. I mean, come on, they were already aware. Your devotion for them was evident to them. They were well aware of your reliance on them, and they decided to sit on their hands. It wasn't that they couldn't relate to your suffering. It was that they just didn't care. The worst part is that very thing, isn't it? Leaving is not the point. It is not over, though. But the truth is, it doesn't matter how much you loved them, how many times you pleaded, or how many tears you shed. Nobody cared about your suffering. Are you still clinging to someone who abandoned you when you were weak? That is the true question now. If that's the case, perhaps you should just let go. 3. The relationship was always on their terms. Reflect on the time you spent together. Can you tell me who decided on these boundaries? Who got to determine when you two met, when you spoke, and if things were good or abruptly bad? Tell the truth, were you ever truly yourself? Alternatively, did you feel like you had to be flexible, patient, and compromise all the time simply to satisfy them? Initially, it was likely unnoticed by you. Being in their company and feeling that surge of affection was all you could think about. You took it in stride if they were preoccupied. They were granted space when they needed it. You would tell yourself, it's okay, I'll see them next time, if they abruptly canceled your arrangements. Yet over time, an unsettling sensation began to develop. When you needed them, they would text, but when they wanted, they would ignore you. Time was always an issue for them, yet they would always find a way to accommodate you when it was convenient for them. They would vanish silently, returning as if nothing had transpired, and they would assume that you would be patiently waiting for them. Tell me what you did. You modified. This was simply the way things were, you told yourself. That they weren't emotionally prepared, that they need personal space, and that you might influence their behavior by being patient. I must inquire, though, did they? Or did you simply become accustomed to taking ever-decreasing amounts till you were left with nothing? That's the trouble with those that take advantage of you. Instead of loving you, they adore being in charge. No matter how brutally they treat you, they know they can always count on your unwavering support and hope for more. And each time you attempted to broach the subject, their spin was to turn the tables on you. Why are you always complaining? Can't you just enjoy what we have? You're always making things difficult. Thus you ceased inquiring. Your anticipation dwindled. You were so terrified that you gladly took the leftovers they offered you, worried they would abandon you if you demanded more. But here's the thing. They were never completely committed to it initially. Because power isn't the essence of true love. This isn't about a power dynamic in which one partner dithers for fear of losing control. Love goes both ways.
Harmony is love.
Every day, two individuals can choose to love each other. What if, however, you were the sole advocate for it? Perhaps love was never there in the first place. So here's a question I have for you. Have you given up hope that they will finally change? Do you hold out some sliver of hope that they'll grant your every wish? I can spare you a little of work if that's the case. Nothing will change. Embracing that reality can help you begin the healing process from a love that was never truly yours. 4. They made you feel guilty for wanting love. How long has it been since you requested more? Additional time, extra work, extra affection. Recall their reaction, did you? Did they embrace you, flash you a grin, and declare, I love you, and I want what's best for you? Did they alter their appearance? Changed in tone? Is it true that you suddenly feel like you're the issue? Since that is the behavior of consumers, they make you feel like you're asking too much the second you ask for genuine love, dedication, and effort. Some people think you're overly dependent. Someone told you that you're overly sentimental. Why don't you be content with what we have? They ask. Over time, you begin to question your own abilities. It occurs to you, maybe I really am the problem. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I should just be grateful for whatever they're willing to give. On the other hand, I must inquire, when exactly did love become something that one must grovel to receive? When did it become unreasonable to ask for simple things like time, energy, and affection? Please give this some serious consideration. Did they ever hesitate to ask for help when they were lonely, needed anything, or needed you? On the other hand, did they take what you had without question? They were never ashamed to admit they needed you. If you truly deserve their affection, then there's no reason to feel bad about asking for it. The fact is this: when it came to love, they had no fear. They feared being tied down. They were terrified of being made to pay for their actions, of having to work for what they wanted. Love in their eyes was always about taking, never about giving. What they wanted most was control, and they achieved it by making you feel bad about wanting more, mastering your feelings, power over what you anticipate, mastery over the minimal sacrifices they made to retain your presence. However, the thing that hurts the most is that was successful. In an effort to hold on to them, you reduced your standards. In an effort to prevent a confrontation, you ceased inquiring. You choose to remain silent just for their sake. How then were they involved? Have they shown you the affection you truly deserved? No, because their efforts to help cease the moment they convinced you that you were the issue. My question is this: you can't continue to feel responsible for their cold heart for much longer, for the simple reason that you were never excessive. Your partner was insufficient and you were only with them. Furthermore, you should no longer feel bad about seeking what is rightfully yours. You were never their first choice, just their backup plan. Imagine your partnership again as you close your eyes. The number of times you waited by your phone, anticipating a text, is probably still in your memory. Remember all those times? You couldn't sleep because you couldn't understand why they insisted on making. You feel like no one else was making an effort? Do you remember a time when you felt like you were actually chosen? On the other hand, were you always there as a fallback? An alternative to consider when everything else failed? No one ever makes you wait when they love you. And it's a harsh reality that most people choose to overlook. You will never feel like you're vying for their undivided attention. However, you were aware of it, weren't you? Whenever they abruptly changed plans, you could feel it. You have to check your phone every 5 minutes since they would take hours to respond to your messages. They would shower you with the perfect amount of attention each time. Just enough to hold you in their arms, but never enough to make you feel safe. You were never given the impression that you were their first priority. You felt like you were nothing more than a convenience to them. In all likelihood, they had not moved on from their ex. Perhaps they intended for someone better to emerge later. Perhaps they just knew you would be there, waiting, hoping, and pleading for more, so they decided to keep you around. Plus, what's worse, their actions were very logical and deliberate. Your devotion for them was evident to them. They were aware of your intense desire to be selected, and rather than release you, they held you captive, savoring little amounts of love to ensure your continued presence. I want to know how many nights you laid up, thinking about every possible move you might make to convince them to select you. However, the reality that you have been avoiding is that you were never the issue. It was inevitable that they would depart. The fact that they never intended to remain meant that they could always find someone to replace you. Until someone better came along, you were only a stopgap measure, someone to fill the voids in their lives. As for when it was discovered, they just turned around and left, abandoning you to scavenge a love that was never truly yours. I must inquire, therefore, whether you are still patiently awaiting their return. Do you still hold out hope that they'll come to terms with their error? If that's the case, I have something to tell you that they will never admit. They had no intention of picking you. You will be able to liberate yourself from that shackle much more rapidly, if you can just admit it. 6. They walked away like you never existed. When someone you would give your life for abandons you, it's the worst feeling in the world. Someday they will confess their love to you. They're expressing their love for you and making plans for the future with you. Finally, what comes next? They've vanished. I don't understand. There is no need to feel bad. Missing resolution. Out of here. As you stand there, fixated on your phone, you find yourself reliving every memory and every kiss, every smile, every promise, and then you can't help but wonder how someone who brought so much joy into their life could ignore you completely. How often have you hoped to see a hint of their missing you on their social media accounts? Did you ever wonder, was any of it even real, while you sobbed your way to sleep? Because that's the worst part about being used. You're just left with more questions after it's finished. They treated you like a footnote in their tale and proceeded to move on without a hitch. What about you, though? The entire freaking book was devoted to them. The reality they'll never tell you is that they were plotting their escape for a long time before they actually departed. Your love, enthusiasm, and loyalty were their prized possessions, and they lingered just long enough to obtain them. And the second they saw they could get by without you, they bolted. You may be under the impression that they would still be with you now if only you had loved and battled for them more fiercely, but it wasn't going to happen. for the simple reason that they were never worried about parting with you, but rather the things you provided them, attempting to dispel the memory of someone who has long since departed from your life. Here you are, struggling to move past an unreal love, struggling to find the strength to cut ties with someone who has never loved you for who you truly are. Listen, I have good news. You will recover. Make no mistake, it will take time. On some evenings, the memories would resurface in a torrent. Sometimes first thing in the morning, you'll check your phone, hoping to see their name. The decision to let go brings you closer to your pre-breakup self. With each passing day, there is a way out of this. Plus, you'll come to understand that their decision to leave was the wisest thing they could have done for you when they're with someone else. Just make a solemn vow to me till that day arrives. Never allow someone to treat you like a passing fad. Never allow anyone to tell you that you're difficult to adore. Plus, you should never have to ask for the affection that you are worthy of. They ignored you and proceeded to move on. Now it's your chance. Conclusion. You can relate to these indicators because you've experienced them firsthand. The point is, though, you are deserving of better. True love should be yours. Love that never wavers. Genuine two-way love. Authentic love that doesn't put you on a pedestal. My one piece of advice to anyone who has been through this is to never again accept anything less than the best. If you found value in this video, please consider subscribing and giving it a like. We discuss the unpopular but ultimately liberating realities here. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.